Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 6th. Luis Severino signs with the Athletics. Tommy Edman staying with the Dodgers. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? We've got a good episode here for you today. Some good signings to talk about, some free agents off the board. Not only that, but the Soto Sweepstakes are coming to an end. So we'll be talking about that, the opposed golden at bat rule, all of that. So stay tuned for that later on in the episode here, because we're going to start the episode by talking about some of the free agent signings. Specifically, we're going to start by talking about Luis Severino signing with the the Athletics. I was really good in the intro, making sure I said the Athletics, and then immediately jumped back to Oakland. Oakland just rolls so smooth. I digress. Whatever. Luis Severino, he is gone from the New York Mets to the Athletics, who will be playing somewhere in Sacramento. Severino had a nice year for the Mets last year. His first year on a different team. Debuted with the Yankees in 2015, and he had been with them all the way up until 2023. We had seen him struggle that year. He lands himself a nice one-year deal with the Mets last year in his age 30 season, and he was one of those kind of key staples for the Mets, pitching-wise. 11-7 record, a 3.91 ERA. He made all 31 starts, had a complete game shutout in the process. 182 innings pitched for him, only 23 home runs allowed, 161 strikeouts. So a really strong year from Severino. We don't know if he'd ever be back to that pitcher that we saw, in 2017 when he finished third in Cy Young, 2018 when he finished in the top 10. Those are his 2 years as an all-star. 2019, he only played 3 games. 2020, he didn't pitch at all. He'd been dealing with those injuries. And then in 2021, only came back for 4 games as well, all of which out of the bullpen. So we kind of had like a 3-break period from Severino. And then in 2022 and 2023, he only played 19 games in each of those years. He looked good in 2022, and then, like I said, 2023 did not. So we didn't know what he was going to be. The Mets took a chance on him, and he kind of performed pretty well. And, he'll land a nice deal with the Athletics here. It's a 3-year deal worth the following amount, which is $67 million. That third year in the deal is a player option, though. So, $67 million asterisk, because if he decides to opt out in 2027, he can do so and walk away and find a new deal somewhere else, which may be the case. And this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, let's talk about the Athletics perspective, and that's you guys went out and got, I wouldn't say a top free agent, but hey, Luis Severino is a name to know. That's immediately your opening day starter. Like, sorry, JP Sears or, whoever else you wanted to throw out there. Probably would have been JP Sears. But that's your ace. You just signed potentially your ace, unless you go and make more moves. We saw the Athletics last year, and they were not the same team like they were in 2023. They've made a lot of improvements, and a lot of their young talent continued to step up, continue to progress overall. And that's a huge thing for them. Now, in 2025, what are we going to have here? Lawrence Butler, he's probably going to get better. Brent Rooker, can he have a similar year to last year? JJ Bleday will improve. Shaylon Galeras, Tyler Soderstrom, Zach Geloff, Jacob Wilson. The talent of the young guys is starting to emerge, and that kind of makes the Athletics an interesting team. The pitching will have its question marks. The pitching actually was overperforming a lot last year, which is probably how they ended up, not finishing last in the division. You have to realize that they were 1 game out from 70 wins. They finished 69 wins. That's 6 games higher than the Angels. That's an impressive season from the Athletics, and I think a strong line for them this year will be 69.5. I think the Athletics have a chance of getting past 70 wins this year. It depends on other free agents they sign. If their young guys continue to take steps forward, this team can really, be something by the time they eventually get to Las Vegas, maybe in 2028-ish, 2027. Which is interesting, and that's just why I want to talk about it from the Luis Severino perspective of it with his contract. 3 years is a hefty deal. That's, it's a nice deal for someone who's going to be 31. What I find interesting is the player option, and I think you're going to see this a lot with contracts that the Athletics are trying to sign, this year, maybe even next year, is because of the uncertainty. It kind of shows strong for Severino that he's willing to put up with it for 2 years, but that third year, if he's just really hasn't enjoyed it, and if the way he's been playing isn't the way he's imagined playing baseball before, it gives him that chance to opt out then. But that third year, maybe that's the year, oh yeah, we'll have the stadium ready for 2027, and it's okay, well, if you do that, I'll pitch, but if you don't, I'm out. So it's interesting to see kind of that, and I think we might see this even with Tampa Bay, if they're trying to give out multi-year deals, because obviously they're homeless. The Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be homeless teams in 2025 here, and potentially even longer, and that can affect a player mental state big time. So I think any kind of long-term deals, these 2-year, 3-year, 4-year deals that the Athletics or the Rays might try to give out, might have these player options in the mix somewhere. But yeah, Severino, he is going to, like I said, if he has the season like he did with the Mets last year, that's a great deal for the Athletics here. Who knows if it's going to be exactly like that? Obviously, the Mets' offensive talent kind of outweighs the Athletics' offensive talent. But he could really be a leader for that pitching staff and, really help out the guys who have been with the Athletics, who have been in that staff and who have struggled a little bit. He can definitely be a voice here. I think, like I said, for the Athletics, it's a good start. I think with the talent that they have, their young talent, in that division, the AL West, it's a tricky division to be in to begin with the Astros and the Rangers and the Mariners, but they could make another move or two and be on the right step and easily take 70, 72, maybe even 74 games if they're playing their cards right, if that talent continues to progress. But this is a move that I like from the Athletics, and good for Severino for taking a chance. I think he's going to look good in the green if they still rock those uniforms. I don't know if they're going to be having the same uniforms. I don't know what the plan is there, but proper stuff there from Luis Severino and the Athletics. So that is that. Moving on now, Tommy Edman is staying with the Dodgers. And I know what the D in Dodgers stands for, and that is deferrals, because the Tommy Edman deal here has deferrals. It's a 5-year contract for Tommy Edman, $74 million that will make him a Dodger through 2029. There is a 6th-year club option for 2030 that is worth $13 million. He's getting a $17 million signing bonus, and the deferred money on this contract is a third of the overall value, which I believe is the $74 million plus the $13 million club option plus the $17 million signing bonus. You add that together, and then you take a third of that deal here, which off the top of my head, 13, 17, it's 30, that's 104 divided by 3, about 35 million, deferred money there. So it's a deal for the Dodgers that I think will work out for them. Tommy Edman hasn't, offensively, Tommy Edman's never been the strongest shooter, but when he came over in the trade this year, he looked a lot better than he had than when he was with the Cardinals earlier in the season. What exactly will that mean? I'm not 100% sure, but Edman is in for the long haul here after spending a couple years. The Cardinals debuting in 2019, won a Gold Glove in his 2021 season. He's put up nice numbers nothing better than his rookie year. His rookie year, he had an 850 OPS, a 304 batting average with 11 home runs. He's gotten 13 home runs before in the season. Actually did it in 2 years back-to-back in 2022 and 2023. But his OPS has never climbed that high. 850 was the highest in 2019. Then it dropped to 685, 695, 725 in 2022. That's the second highest in his career. So he hasn't really seen the light of day. That 850 in his 6 years, he averages about 726 as OPS. So the numbers are there for him offensively. His defense is great. So I think it's an interesting deal for the Dodgers. In my mind, I think Edman is a good player. I think he fits in well with the culture there. I think when he got traded to the Dodgers, we saw like how well he kind of fit in with the team. But if I'm being honest, I'm surprised he got that much. Of course, it is the Dodgers, so they can, you pick a price, and obviously you sign where the dotted line is. But I don't know if I would have paid Edman that much. Like I said, the glove is there defensively. He's going to be good. I believe they'll probably play him out in center field. I couldn't really see him being a shortstop, especially if they said that Mookie would be trying to play back in the middle infield. They still have Gavin Lux. So the Dodgers have options, and that's what makes them the scary team. That's what makes them the World Series champions. They got a lot of great players, and a lot of them can do multiple positions. So, one guy goes down, it's like, okay, we'll just shift this way and throw this other talented player into the mix. Like, it just kind of works for the Dodgers. So whether he's out there in center, if he's at short or second, wherever he ends up playing, the glove is going to go. He is a Gold Glover. He can do it. But that offensive numbers worry me. I can see him batting around 7, 8, 9, and he could really, struggle at times. It will be interesting to see how the climate there in the West Coast affects him, because like I said, the bat numbers did tick up quite a bit when he got traded from the Cardinals to the Dodgers. He was really struggling with the Cardinals this year, and of course they were going nowhere in that division. That's why they traded off so many pieces, including Tommy Edman, and Dodgers found themselves a nice player who had a nice couple of games with the Dodgers there. So we'll have to see kind of how this deal shapes up for the Dodgers in the season and as the years go here. But Edman is going to be one of those faces who will be sticking around with the Dodgers for a long time, at least 5 years with Edman there. So yeah, that's all I really have on that. Just in my mind, a little bit of an overpay, but maybe the Dodgers see something that I don't, and maybe it is just the uptick in when he got traded to LA, how he was a better player overall. So that could have definitely been the case. All right, so we've got 4 more signings to talk about here, 2 with the AL and 2 with the NL. So I think what I'll do is I'll split them up here. So we'll talk about the AL players that signed and then the NL players, or to the AL teams, to the NL teams. So starting with the AL here, we got Aroldis Chapman signing a 1-year, $10.75 million deal with the Boston Red Sox. Yankees fans, how do you feel about this move? Kind of hurts a little bit, eh? Imagine if Soto ends up with the Red Sox. Of course, Chapman, for the longest time in the early 2000s, the elite of the elite, the scariest guy out of the pen, whether it was with the Reds, the Yankees, or the Cubs in 2016. Of course, that was the year he won his ring. He is a 2-time World Series champion. And a 7-time All-Star. The guy is legit. His stuff is still there. We had seen some down ticks towards the end of his Yankee deal in 2022. Last year, spent a little bit of the time with the Royals, where he was great. Went to the Rangers, which is where he won his 2nd World Series ring. Definitely wasn't as good when he was with the Royals, but still finished the year off strong. Landed a 1-year deal with the Pirates, and was pretty well. 3.79 ERA, a 5-5 record in 68 appearances, 61.2 innings pitched, only 5 home runs given up, and 98 strikeouts. So Still the Aroldis Chapman, just of old. He's going to be 37 with Boston here. And, this is kind of interesting because that Boston bullpen all of a sudden, off the top of my head, is a lot scarier than we think. I mean, Aroldis Chapman and Liam Hendricks, I believe he will be healthy and good to go. Those are two older guys out of the bullpen, but those are two elite guys we've seen for a long time. Like I said, Chapman with the Yankees and, with the Reds even. Hendricks with the White Sox, the Athletics. So there is definitely a case for the Red Sox, depending on how else they add and how the other guys are performing. Could have one of the top bullpens by the end of the year, which makes it even more interesting if they end up getting Soto. But Chapman will fall right in kind of there. I'm not sure if they're going to have a specific closer, if it's going to be Liam Hendricks who comes out to close games, or if they'll just do things based off of matchups. If there's two lefties in the ninth inning, they'll bring in Chapman. If there's two or three righties, they'll bring in Hendricks. So I'm not sure what kind of that duo will look like, but I think Boston is happy to have gotten Chapman. I think Chapman's happy to go to Boston. I think once the deal was announced, within like 5-10 minutes, Chapman had posted a picture on his Instagram of him with his dog at the gym and him in a Boston Red Sox cap already. So I think he's excited for the move. I believe it's going to be his seventh team in the big leagues. He's been it with the Yankees, the Reds, the Pirates, the Royals, the Texas Rangers, and the Cubs. So yes, the Red Sox are the seventh team in Chapman's long 15-year career. It's going to be his 16th year in the big leagues. Aroldis Chapman has been around, like I said, two-time World Series champion. Finds himself heading to Fenway for the 2025 season. The other move in the AL comes from the Rangers as they go out to get Kyle Higashioka to complete their catcher tandem. It's a 2-year deal with $13.5 million. And there is a mutual option for the 2027 season if they both, have, if they both felt like these 2 years are good for them and it works well. Higashioka, what a season he had with the Padres, especially some moments in the playoffs where he really turned it on. Probably his best year ever in his big league career. Spent the first 7 years kind of the backup for Gary Sanchez when he was with the Yankees. Spent a lot of time up and down, but saw a lot more of an increase in the later years, especially in 2022 and 2023. Of course, after Gary Sanchez left, there were times where he was the starting catcher, but recently, of course, mixed with Austin Wells. He ended up getting part of the trade deal with Michael King when the Yankees went out to trade for Juan Soto. So his age 34 season, his 8th year in the big league, spent with the Padres, where he put up some pretty nice numbers, had 17 home runs, a career high there, 45 RBIs, a career high there, a 739 OPS, second in his career. But of course, the year that was first, that was COVID. He only played 16 games. This year played 84 as the backup, I guess, for Luis Campusano, that tandem duo there for the Padres. A really strong year for Higashioka in a contract year, and it earns him a nice deal with Texas. Of course, this is more for a backup bench. Maybe we'd see him DH every now and then, but it definitely won't be as much as you think because they have Jonah Heim, switch hitting catcher, and of course, that's always, a scary thing. Of course, he kind of debuted in 2020 with Oakland, moved to Rangers in 2021. Last year, his first All-Star in a Gold Glove. He had a phenomenal year. This year struggled a little bit more, dealt with some injury. So I think what you have here for the Rangers is you have Heim, who has this huge upside, but is still relatively young. I say relatively young. He's going to be 30, but he's only been in the league for 5 years, 4 years technically, because one of them was COVID. You have Higashioka, who's done it before, who's kind of been this role and has had some success. His 9th year, he's been around a lot longer. He's going to be 35. So I think it's a really nice duo of a catcher to have. I think they'll both kind of work well together and they kind of understand their role. Kyle Higashioka, numbers. He is a backup catcher. He is not a starter. He's not anything. He has his moments where he can play like that. He has his weeks, his games even. But he's probably, I would say, the best backup catcher you could get. When you mix that with Jonah Heim, you have a nice duo there for Texas. And, I think we'll have to see kind of what moves the Rangers want to, supplement their team with here. Because if I'm being honest, the lineup is okay. Simeon and Seager lead the way there. Perfect. Garcia, that's your guy. Langford, Lau, the two Joshes, Josh Young and Josh Smith. Evan Carter, who knows what you got of. So the Rangers have a nice offense. That was never the problem last year. The problem was more with their pitching. Of course, DeGrom really wasn't there. Nathan Eovaldi had his ups and downs throughout the season with injuries. So... And even right now, if you look at Fangraphs, they have Tyler Mahle as the third starter, Cody Bradford at the 4, and then Kumar Rocker as the 5 already. So there's definitely some more moves for Texas to make here. And but Higashioka is a nice player to add, and he will fit nicely with the team and the team's culture. No doubt about that. Moving on, the last two signings here to talk about. We're going to the Mets, baby, the Mets. Frankie Montas is signing a deal with the Mets. It's a 2-year deal, $34 million. That second year is a player option for Frankie Montas, so if he likes it in the great New York Met team, he is allowed to stay there. He has that option there. It's going to be a 6 team for Frankie Montas, I believe. Oakland, New York, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago. Yeah, so the 6th team in Frankie Montas' career is going to be with the New York Mets. Last year, signed with the Reds, 1-year deal, and pitched okay. Won't say anything great because he had a 5 ERA with 19 games, but it still was okay for the Brewers to take a chance on him. He got traded at the deadline to Milwaukee, where, believe it or not, he pitched okay. It was a decent year for him. 11 games when he went over to Milwaukee to a 4.5 ERA, so a little bit better than his time with the Reds, but also in 8 games less. Overall, on the year between both the Reds and the Brewers, he was 7-11, a 4.84 ERA, 30 starts made, 150 innings, 24 home runs, 148 strikeouts. So the strikeout numbers are there. Those are nice numbers to have for 148, but gave up too many home runs, gave up too many runs in general, whether you want to call that because it wasn't that NL Central and that was a crazy division. It seemed like everyone was blowing each other out when the Pirates played the Cubs, the Reds and Brewers, etc. But the Mets have holes to fill in that rotation. We saw this Mets team make it to the NLCS this year, and to be honest with you, it was because of some pretty amazing pitching performances. Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino. That was the 1-2-3 for the Mets here. Of course, Kodai Senga was hurt. He would have been the one there. Peterson had some nice moments out of the bullpen. But yeah, that rotation is gone. Sean Manaea, free agent. Jose Quintana, free agent. Luis Severino, we mentioned earlier, signed with the Athletics, so he is a free agent that was now officially lost. So Frankie Montas right now, he's the 2, I guess, after Kodai Senga. And I mean, to be the 2 and having a 4.84 season last year isn't the ideal scenario there for the Mets. They have Derek Peterson listed as the 3 right now, Paul Blackburn as the 4, and then Taylor McGill as the 5. So the Mets definitely need to go out and work on the pitching staff. Probably bring in a top dog, really, whether that be a Corbin Burns or Max Fried. Maybe they go out for Jack Flaherty. But I think there is still moves that need to happen with that rotation. Frankie Montas, for me, is a nice supplementary piece. It's a nice kind of like guy that you want to have pitching 3rd, maybe 4th even. But for him to be the 2 right now means that you need to go get someone who is an actual 2 or someone who's a 1 and move Kodai Senga to the 2. He'll be coming back from injury, so what kind of season could he have? But it's a start for the Mets. They're still trying to see where they'll land on Soto, because I guess that's kind of the big fish in the sea. But I'm sure once they end up either getting Soto or losing out on Soto, their heads will turn to pitching and kind of continue to supplement that rotation, because that's going to be what the key difference is between the Mets this year and the Mets last year. So we'll have to see and wait on that. But Frankie Montas signing with the Mets. And then the last deal here is Matthew Boyd signs a 2-year deal with the Cubs, $29 million, and a mutual option for 2027. That's what Scott Boras, when he's at his best, can do for you here, because Boyd, let me tell you, kind of a surprise that he's getting this kind of a deal here. My emotions and my feelings for Montas when I'm saying, oh, he's a third, fourth string starter, that. This is Matthew Boyd, but, fifth starter. He had his moments with Detroit, but that was also because Detroit wasn't a good team in 2016-17. In recent years, he hasn't been able to produce a lot. Like the last time he pitched 32 games was in 2019. Since then, in the last 5 years, of course, COVID doesn't count, but 2021 to 2024, so in the last 4 years, he has not even pitched 20 games in a season. What I will say, though, is that his most recent success here is probably why the Cubs dealt out for him here. In his age 33 season with the Cleveland Guardians last year was superior. In 8 games, only played 8 games, of course, was dealing with still with injuries. He's been dealing with injuries in the 2000s here, in the 2020s. But in those 8 games, a 2.72 ERA. He was really good in 39.2 innings pitched, nearly 40 innings of work. Only gave up 4 home runs. He was great in the postseason. 46 strikeouts. So the Cubs are going to take a chance on him. I think it'll be interesting. You're going from, I guess, Kyle Hendricks to Matthew Boyd. And when I say that out loud, then I like it a lot more, because I think Matthew Boyd is a lot better than Kyle Hendricks, in recency years. Of course, I think if I go for longevity in their whole careers, I think I would still take Kyle Hendricks' career. But Boyd is an interesting piece. It's going to be his 11th year in the big leagues, debuting in 2015 with Toronto, where he made 2 starts before heading over to Detroit, and was with Detroit from 2015 all the way through 2021. Checked in with Seattle in 2022 before heading back to Detroit for 2023, and then, of course, last year with the Guardians. So his 5th team will be with the Cubs here. His first time heading over to the NL side. So a lot of question marks will surround Matthew Boyd in the coming year and the year following. But if you just look at 2024, look at the 2.72 ERA, that's something to be excited about. That's his best year since 2021 with the Tigers, when he made 15 starts with a 3.89 ERA. So yeah, we'll have to see kind of how Boyd can do it with the Cubs, and hopefully this deal does work out for him, and maybe he can prove me wrong and become kind of that ace of the staff potentially. The Cubs staff kind of gets some interesting remarks here, because, you go Shota Imanaga, who's essentially their ace, Justin Steele, Jameson Taillon, can he bring it back? And then Matthew Boyd kind of slots into that 4th spot. They have Javier Assad, and then if you go into AAA even, they have Ben Brown, Jordan Wicks still around. So there are some options to make up a nice Cubs rotation here. So we'll just kind of see what they end up doing and how they can continue to supplement their team. Of course, we'll be talking about it a little bit in the rumor section, but they definitely, are looking to make a trade here and trying to make their team better. So we'll see what that means for the Cubs going forward. But that is the deal there. So those are the signings that happened. Next thing to talk about, we're going to mention that Hyeseong Kim, I believe that's the pronunciation, has been posted by the KBO, and MLB teams have up until January 3rd to sign the Korean player, second base, middle infielder type player, second base shortstop. Spent 8 years playing in the KBO, debuting at 18 and in 2017 at the age of 18. He's played nearly 1,000 games, where he has just over 1,000 hits, 37 home runs, 386 RBIs, with a career OPS of 766. So what you're getting is basically a contact guy who, doesn't really hit the ball out of the yard, but can. Basically Hyeseong Kim. And kind of like a counterpoint to Hyeseong Kim, you get Hyeseong Kim. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure a team will try to sign him. We're still waiting to see if Roki Sasaki will be posted. Most likely, yes, a little bit later on. But yeah, Hyeseong Kim. I keep looking at the word and I keep trying to say Hyai, but I googled it. Apparently, it is Hyeseong Kim, I believe. So he's been posted. Teams will have up until January 3rd to sign the Korean player. Let's talk about the golden at-bat rule. That is something that I saw, and I've been scratching my head ever since. Rob Manfred, apparently there's been some buzz with a rule that he had proposed a little while ago, and it's apparently picking up a little bit of steam here. The golden at-bat rule. Now, if you're listening to this, and it's the first time you're hearing about this rule, let me break it down to you in the dumbest way possible. Bottom of the ninth. Runner at third. That's the tying run in a ball game, right? You're down by 1. You've got the elite Emmanuel Clase on the bump, and Aaron Judge comes up to bat. And Clase, after a tough battle, strikes him out, a cutter away. Boom, 2 outs. You're 1 out away from saving the game and winning it. And all of a sudden, Aaron Judge is coming back up to bat. And you got to do it again. And this time, he hits a walk-off 2-run home run. That, to me, that story, and you can, pick any team, any pictures and players and whatever. That is why this rule is stupid. This is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. I get what the goal is, and I understand why they want to implement this or why they're talking about implementing it. Because why, in a super clutch game, in a super clutch moment, would you want a guy like, I don't know, I feel bad, I'm going to throw someone in the bus here. Let's just say Kyle Higashioka. Why would you want him up to bat instead of having, in this case, Corey Seager, right? If we're talking Texas here. So you know what, Corey Seager, you get to bat instead. This is dumb. This is taking away from baseball's best moments, which are the random clutch, you're a hero moments. The moments that turn, David Freese with the Cardinals from legend who hit a game-tying triple and then a walk-off home run in Game 6, and that helped them win the World Series that year when they eventually won it in Game 7. You take away that because you know what? In that moment, it wouldn't have been Freese up at the bat. They would have put in Pujols. They would have put in one of their top batters. You go back to 2020 in the COVID year. The best moment of that postseason was Brett Phillips hitting a walk-off hit against Kenley Jansen. The ball gets away from Taylor. The ball gets away from Will Smith. Randy slips. He scores. That moment lives in my head. I am not a Rays fan. I am not a Dodgers fan. That moment is a moment in baseball history that will go down as one of the best moments. Like, that was a great moment in the sport, not only for Tampa Bay, and that's probably one of Tampa Bay's most successful stories and memories that they'll have in their franchise's history. And it's surrounded by Brett Phillips. And you know what? Brett Phillips was a team player. He was a guy. He was loved by the fans. He wasn't the best player, but in that moment, he came up, he stepped up, and he had this huge moment. And that was the decision done by Kevin Cash, just to pinch hit him and to have that kind of at bat. And that outcome that happened is a result of when the underdog gets a chance to prove themselves. We see this, but we see this time and time again. We saw this in the postseason. This is a chance for the guys who are batting 8th and batting 9th to make a name for themselves. We just mentioned Kyle Higashioka. After Tatis, Higashioka was the best hitter on that Padres team in the Wild Card Series and even a little bit in the Division Series before some of the other guys turned it on a little bit more. We got to see that from Higgy. That helped him in the long run, and now he's earned a nice deal with the Rangers. If that wasn't the case, if he wasn't getting those moments to get those at-bats, then he probably wouldn't have gotten that kind of deal. He wouldn't have gotten those opportunities to shine. He would have just been a face there for a year and gone. Instead, what you have is Higgy had a nice couple of home runs and a nice couple of moments with the Padres, helped them out, in their postseason chances, almost beating the Dodgers. And if that's the case, if they beat the Dodgers, who knows how far they would have gotten in the in the postseason? Maybe it would have been the Padres beating the Yankees in the World Series. It so much can dictate that. And, in my mind, at the end of the day, when I look at a box score from a game, I'm not trying to see, Austin Wells had 2 at-bats while Aaron Judge had 5, or something like that, because Aaron Judge got to steal an at-bat from Wells. To me, it is ugly representation of the game that we're trying to build, where you have 9 guys. It's 1 through 9. You repeat. That's how it goes. You don't get to sub in a batter. That's not fair to the pitchers. That's not fair to other teams who don't have a top batter to sub in. Are we doing this every day? Are we doing this only in the clutch games? There's too many nuances with this rule. I think it's dumb. I think it shouldn't be implemented. If it is implemented, I cannot see this lasting more than a year, maybe 2 years. If we're going to implement the rule, let's have robo-umps. Let's have give the pitchers and batters and catchers the option to challenge a strike call. Can we do that before we implement some stupid nonsense that's going to just ruin the game? That is oh yeah, I think it was Trevor May. He has a podcast I saw. I forget who it was. I think it was Blake Trinan. He was on, it's if I have to face Soto, I'm going to walk Soto. And if then Soto comes back up to plate, I'm going to walk him again. It's going to ruin the game. That's already the plan that pitchers have, is basically I'm just going to walk him twice. I don't care if it loads the bases. I don't care, if I walk in a run. That's dumb, and it is dumb. So this rule should be squashed immediately and put in a butcher fire and never heard of or talked about again. That's my opinions on it. That's the golden at bat rule. Some rumors I want to mention really quickly, just 2 things that I saw interesting. This is going back to the Cubs when we're talking about them. Apparently, the Cubs are going to push very hard for teams and are definitely trying to trade one of Seiya Suzuki or Cody Bellinger. One of those guys, from what I've seen and from what I've looked around at, one of those guys will definitely not be on the Cubs team on opening day. At least that is the Cubs' plan, is to trade either Suzuki or Bellinger. Very interesting to see how that will end up. And then the other bit of rumor here is apparently the Astros have offered a deal, about $150 million plus for Alex Bregman, about 5 or 6 years, I believe. But apparently he is looking for a range of $200 million, which means that the Astros might be out of the running. That is too pricey for the Astros. So the only way they can retain Bregman, if he's trying to, get his money, get his $200 million, whatever he's looking for, is to shut off some payroll. So that means they'd have to make a trade. When you look at their top payroll guys, it's like trading away Framber Valdez or one of those guys, because obviously you're not trading away Altuve or Jordan or anyone. So interesting to see there. But if that report stays true, I find it difficult for the Astros to trade away pieces to make payroll. So I think Bregman could be on the move officially, and that gives Seattle Mariners maybe a better chance here. The last thing to talk about here as we wrap up the episode is the Soto sweepstakes, and apparently it is coming to an end. Earlier this week, Jeff Passan says that Soto should be signed before the winter meetings start. If you aren't aware, the winter meetings start on Monday. Today is Friday, which means we have the rest of today, the rest of tomorrow, and the rest of Sunday. So 3 days essentially before we get news on, potentially a Soto deal. And the thing is, when it comes to Mr. Jeff Passan, when he speaks, I listen. I trust this guy with my life. So if he's saying that Soto should be dealt and should be signed before Monday, I'm going to be checking Twitter very much so this weekend, waiting on the news here. Of course, if you are unaware, there are 5 teams still at play for Soto. That is the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Boston Red Sox, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. 3 teams in the AL East, 4 teams in the East in general. Latest on his numbers, the expected range right now is for him to get 14 to 15 years at around 43 million AAV. Of course, this deal is going to be north of $600 million. It's going to be the second biggest contract in the game after Ohtani, when all said and done with him. So it's interesting to see kind of what's going on there. Is Soto going to be choosing between the 2 New York teams? You know, what are they doing with the Blue Jays? You know, a lot of people were saying Soto is doing the same thing Shohei did, which was basically use the Blue Jays for leverage, see how much they're willing to offer, and then go to New York Mets and Steve Cohen and being like, the Blue Jays are going to offer me this much money, so you're going to pay me this much money so I can sign with you guys, because I don't want to go there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what the results are. People are saying the Dodgers are out of it. I saw something that's saying that Boston wants to try to set up another meeting with Soto before he makes a decision to make maybe one last push and give one last, huzzah. If I was a betting man right now, I would still say the Mets land him. I've been strong on this kind of from, about September even, when I really started thinking about free agency a little bit more. I think Soto will end up on the Mets. On an outside chance, the Blue Jays being the team that I feel like is still going to offer him the most money. If the Mets can't match the Blue Jays, I'm sure the Jays don't mind overpaying, an extra 30, 40, 60 million to get Soto. So it might be a bit of an overpay, but I could see the Blue Jays making it. They might be the team that gives the most money, whether it's a team that wants to go to or not. How much does money talk there? The Yankees, if something falls out with the Mets maybe, but teams like the Red Sox and Dodgers, I'm starting to have a hard time. Maybe the Red Sox still have a chance. If he signs with the Dodgers, man, season's over. He better not sign with the Dodgers here, but that is the latest on the Soto sweepstakes. So at some point this weekend, Soto should be signing. And I will say this, if that is the case, if we get Juan Soto signing this weekend, I will do an episode on Monday. We will talk about Soto and anything else that happens this weekend, but I will 100% be recording an episode on Monday if Soto signs. So stay tuned for that. If the deal is made, of course, and if not, well, we'll have the normal episodes like we've been doing weekly, and that will come out on Friday. But yes, the Soto sweepstakes wrapping up, and speaking of wrapping up, that is going to do it for our episode here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you everybody so much for listening. Hopefully your team's been doing something. Hopefully your team's been making a couple signings here. Let me know your thoughts of the golden at-bat rule. How stupid do you think it is? And do you think Soto is going to sign this weekend? That is the big question, because once that domino falls, oh boy, that opens up the free agency market. Pete Alonso, Max Fried, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, so many players with so much talent still to be signed. Thank you everybody so much, and I will see you next time.